bigger one wants to come up and eat.
So I have searched far and wide, and I have yet to find a bass fishing lure that gives you as much of an adrenaline rush and as much quick excitement as this one right here, the hollow belly topwater frog. To take full advantage of the topwater frog, however, you've got to understand three main things when it comes to this lure that will help you catch more fish. My name's Tyler, and let's talk about it. Another giant, another giant. Look at that, y'all. I can't believe what I just caught. Yes! Well, how's it going, folks, and welcome back to TRF. My goal here on this channel is to help you guys become better bass anglers and catch more fish. So if you're all about that, hit the subscribe button. For today's video, I've got a very special guest, and his name is Tyler Berger from Bass Fishing HQ, an awesome bass fishing instructional channel just like this one. As a fishing content creator, affiliate revenue is one of the biggest ways to keep our channels going, and every single link you see in my video description and Tyler Berger's, basically every fishing video channel out there, is an affiliate link, which means you click on the link, it takes you to a site, and your entire purchase is tracked to our accounts and helps us make some revenue as well. And so it costs you nothing and oftentimes has discount codes associated. So if you feel like supporting the channel, click those links in the video description in every single video. It truly is the easiest way for you guys to help support TRF and what we're doing here on the channel. Now, let's talk about tip number one when it comes to fishing a topwater frog, and that is you've got to have the right gear. To use a topwater frog to its most effective potential, you've got to use it on at least 40-pound braided line, a heavy action rod, and a good bait casting reel with a deep spool and a fast gear ratio. And let me explain why. The weedless topwater hollow belly frog was designed to be fished in and around the stuff you see behind me. The cattails, the reeds, the lily pads, the grass, and of course you can catch fish in open water as well on the hollow belly frog, but that was not where it was designed to be fished. There are more than likely bass living in your pond or lake in the junk way back here that no other lure is suited for, and that's because the hollow belly topwater frog, one, it floats, and two, it is totally weedless. So you run your fingers across the top, you do not get snagged. It runs across some lily pads, doesn't get snagged, but as soon as a fish bites down on it, it exposes those hooks and you can get them in the face. And so if you're throwing a hollow belly frog in open water, I would implore you to throw a different lure that might have a better hookup ratio. So a topwater walking bait, a topwater popper, a whopper plopper, any kind of vibrating topwater. A hollow belly frog, I think, is best thrown around the stuff that it was intended for. And in order to best get fish out of that cover, the heavy grass that you see behind me, oftentimes I'll throw a frog around shallow laydowns and wood. You really need heavy gear for that. Can you do it on a spinning rod? You can, but I've made a whole video talking about why that's not the most efficient way to go. And so when you're talking about heavy grass, braided line is really, really helpful because it cuts through that grass. I'm not saying a hard hook set with monofilament or fluorocarbon or copolymer can't cut through some of that grass, but it's just not designed to do that well. Braided line is. And so if you get a bite from a fish in a huge grass mat and you got to set the hook, that fish has already taken you down back to where he lives, and a resin type line will have a hard time ripping through the grass to get the fish out of his living room and onto the bank or into your bass boat. And so that's why braided line is important. I throw 50-pound braid, at least for me personally, at a minimum, sometimes 65 if the grass is super, super heavy. And going along with the heavy braided line is a heavy action rod. In my experience, at least a 7'2" to 7'6" heavy action rod, depending on your fishing situation, whether you're in a kayak or a boat or on the bank. But a heavy action rod, especially a longer one like the 7'4" here, will give you great casting distance, as Tyler will talk about in tip number 2, and it also allows you to have a ton of power to get the fish out from where they live and into your boat. So if you find yourself throwing a topwater frog in areas that don't look like this, you're just throwing it in open water, I will guarantee that you will have a better hookup ratio and catch more fish on a treble hooked topwater in that open water. So stick to throwing a frog where it belongs here, which means you need certain types of gear. I'm not saying you got to go out there and buy a whole bunch of new rod and reel combos, but I think everybody needs a braid combo for topwater.
So tip number 2 when it comes to becoming a better frog fisherman is actually casting your frog where no one else will and where no one else can. If you can cast your bait, your frog, where no one else can, up underneath of a dock, underneath of an overhanging tree, you're going to simply get your frog by bass that other guys cannot get their frog there. Now, the other part of that is actually distance. One of the best ways to get more frog bites is by getting that frog away from you, by making a long cast, because when we fish frogs, often it is in really, really shallow water. I think actually most of the time it is in really shallow water, and those shallow water bass can actually be really spooky. So making a longer cast, getting that frog away from the boat, the trolling motor, or even if you're fishing on the bank, getting away from the bank where you've been moving and maybe walking around is going to help you to get more bites. Those fish that are further away from you don't know that you are there, and so therefore they're going to think that frog is something real, whether it's an actual frog or a bluegill, whatever you're trying to mimic. I also want to talk about where guys will not put their frog, which is a lot of times in really, really heavy cover. A lot of guys know about fishing frogs on mats of vegetation, but sometimes even really thick, heavy mats, those bass will still come through them to get a frog. And that's where the bass wants to live. They want to live in that deepest, thickest part of the cover. So putting your frog where most fishermen can't and won't is going to help you to catch a lot more bass on frogs.
Oh, what an uncomfortable hook set. Oh my gosh, just gotta winch him out of there, baby. Yes. Oh my goodness gracious. That was fun. You gotta stink and get your frog way back in there. Mr. Berger was right. Get your stuff in the junk. And tip number 3 when it comes to being a better frog fisherman is to get the fish in as fast as humanly possible. You do not want to take your time and have a good fight with the fish in their territory here. You want to get them out and get them onto the bank, into your kayak or into your bass boat as fast as possible. And this might ruffle a few feathers, but I'm going to say something here. Bass fishing is not about the fight. I get comments every once in a while of people saying, hey man, work the fish slower, have more fun with the fight. In the grand scheme of fishing as a whole, bass do not fight very hard. And so if you're all into a fight, catch a big catfish, go fly fishing for carp, or literally catch any saltwater fish out there, they practically all fight harder than a bass. Now, before anybody gets mad, yes, of course, there are some really fun fight situations like big smallmouth bass on light spinning gear, or a strong, aggressive spotted bass in current. Those are, of course, fun bass fights. But when you are fishing what I call hand-to-hand combat, heavy cover fishing with the topwater frog, you don't want to give them time to fight back. You as an angler need, not just want, you need to be in control of that fish to get him onto the bank or into the boat. As y'all have seen, when I set the hook on a frogfish, I am not messing around, because success to me is landing that fish. Now, if you want to play it risky and have a good fight in the grass with that fish, by all means go ahead. But oftentimes you're going to find that that fish will dive even farther deeper into that grass if you let them fight back. When they get down in there and you don't have any leverage on them, they can rise up a little bit, shake their head with some slack line, and get that frog right out of their mouths. And so you'll see me in these videos, you'll see pro anglers all get fish in the same way, and that is at the speed of light. So now that we've covered all 3 tips, let's hop on the water real quick and see some frog catches in action. Oh yeah. Oh, come on. Got him. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Get him in fast. So you can enjoy yourself a nice single scoop bass, and he can get back in the water nice and quick. Oh, gee. Hand slipped off the trigger a few times there. Wow, what a nice one. Get in the boat. Yes, baby. Man. That fish surprised the heck out of me, but look how he ate that thing. It says, bye-bye. Pop and perch down the gullet. Gee, he has a scar on his side too. Looks like he got into a fight with an eagle. That was fun. Whew. And let me just reiterate something again. If you're fishing monofilament line and a 6'9" medium light spinning rod on your frogs, even in this type of stuff this close to the boat, you may get a hook set into them, but my hand slipped off the handle twice. If yours does that with your gear, you're not getting that fish in. He'll get stuck down in the grass, shake his head, and that frog was not really hooked that well in his mouth. And so because of my heavy action rod, fast gear ratio, braid, I cut through all that stuff, ripped him out of there, and got him in the boat. If success to you is getting him in the boat, get yourself a heavy action rod, some braid, and go to town. Oh. Gosh. There he is. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Get in the boat. Yes. Oh, baby. Again, though, a skinny boy. This thing would be 4 pounds if she wasn't so skinny. But that's how you want to hook them, right there. Top, roof of the mouth. Oh, it wasn't coming off. Love it. Now that's a good time. Well, boys and girls, that's gonna be it for this video. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, hit that subscribe button. Hey, I will leave 2 videos that are similar to this one up in these corners. This one over here will be an uncut video of me fishing the topwater frog for some giant Texas bass, and I will leave one of Tyler Berger's topwater videos up here in this corner talking about whopper plopper mistakes. My name's Tyler, his name was Tyler, and we'll see you guys next time right here on TRF.